What's up, guys? This is Collin from Grayscale, and we're gonna do a track by track of our new record, Umbra. There's a lot that went into that title, and that took us a long time to land on it. But essentially, the record has so many themes about internal conflict, man versus self, man versus environment type of narratives, and the term Umbra, like in an astrological sense, is the complete darkness, the space created behind an eclipse of complete darkness, complete coldness. And that's where the macro theme of the record comes from, where a lot of the songs, are light or playful sounding, but at the core of them, if you really listen to what the story is about, it's actually very dark and wicked, or coming from a place of like internalized conflict, or a place of disturbance. And I think even this, some songs that it's more clear on the surface, like instrumentally the whole package kind of speaks that way in a more darker tone. But even the lighter sounding ones have a little bit of darkness to them. And you hear it in like Dirty Bombs, for example, in the verses. Like so much of it, lyrically speaking, is just talking about a lot of like the distaste deep down that I have towards people sometimes, with the way that they value how they're perceived on the internet more than how they value themselves in real life, and how it upsets me in a way that people have their priorities so mixed up. So that's kind of a macro explanation of it all. Yeah, I could go into grave detail and bore you for hours, but that's the theme. Without You was, so when we were writing Umbra, we had written like 50, 60 song ideas, demos for it. And Without You was one where, like, when we started, it was just kind of this avalanche of a track where, like, when we started writing it, we just got more musical with it and more musical with it. And we added horns and we added a choir. And I felt like as it went on, we were like, yo, there's a different energy to this record. This is a record where we really feel like we've locked in on a sound that we've been refining with Adornment, with Nella Vita, something we've been working towards. And this Umbra really felt like the record where we kind of, in a way, like figured ourselves out and reached a sound that was most organic, most natural to us, most original to us, really felt right. And I feel like Without You was the one where we just went full send on the instrumental. We just kept going and pushing it to a point where we ended up with this super musical intro to the record, and we felt like it set the tone for what we wanted to say and who we are as a band now with this record moving forward, and where we've arrived on our sound. I mean, that song is it was one that we wrote pretty early on in the process, honestly, and it's just from writing it early on, we were like, yo, this definitely has the right feel, the right energy to it to fit on this record and what we want to work towards. And I think we're a band that we write pop songs, we write rock songs, we write ballads, and I think we pride ourselves in being able to do all of them and making them all cohesive on one record. Like, that means a lot to us as musicians and as people and as artists, as far as what Grayscale is. And I think that song, we wrote it early on. We just knew that it had the right attitude to it, that it was going to be on the record. And it's really a song about just kind of like questioning and being confused as far as why other people act the way they do towards one another, why people are kind of so shitty towards themselves and towards one another. And it's just a song about, being okay with being yourself and just like kind of saying fuck everything else, and not worrying so much. It's kind of a reminder, like, not to worry so much about what people think on the internet about shit like it is in real life. And it's I don't know, I think a lot of people get lost along the way of not being comfortable being themselves. And it's a song I hope that reminds people that there's only one you. You can only be you, and there's an original aspect to that, and that's okay. And you don't need to try to be something you're not. So that's kind of what that song's about, and definitely is a song that means a lot to us as a band and me as an individual and lyricist. Bad Love is a song about being, whether it's you know, an intimate relationship or a friendship, it's about being in a relationship. And, you know, I'm sure plenty of other people have experienced this, where you know it isn't good for you, but you stay in it because it's, you know, maybe it's easier, or maybe it's fun, or for whatever reason, against your better judgment, you stay in something. Maybe it's, you know, for somebody else. Maybe it's selfless, maybe it's selfish, whatever the reason is, like, you stay in this thing even though you know that person is bad for you, and you're kind of bad for each other. And there's a lot of personal kind of reflection in that song. But that song, as far as when it came along in the process, I feel like it was about halfway. I don't fully remember, to be honest. Like I said, we had like up to 60 demos. Like, so that was somewhere in that big pot, but I don't remember exactly where. But that's definitely a fun song that, again, coming back to that Umbra theme, like if you listen to it on the surface, it doesn't sound like it means anything serious, but if you dive in and focus on the lyrics and what the story is, like, there's definitely a darker, kind of more wicked narrative than what it appears on the surface. That one was somewhere later on in the process. I feel like I think we just doubled down on, like, we wanted another song with like horns and like that had this kind of playful pop feel. And again, like I mentioned on Bad Love, and when we talked about it overall, like that theme of you know, things not necessarily being what they are on the surface, and, you know, that how you really feel deep down type of thing compared to how you let yourself be seen. Motown's another example of that, because it's a very lighthearted, playful sounding song, but the lyrics are not. But I mean, they are, but they're vulgar at times, and they're explicit, and they kind of tell this sexualized story, and it's just like coming back to that Umbra theme again, which I didn't really explain perfectly in the initial explanation. But like, if you think about the album cover and the theme of the whole album being this kind of cream white, and then the text and everything on the inside on the insert is all dark. It's this grainy, like moving green filmy color, and that's another kind of like example of the theme of it. And Motown fits in very well to that theme, being probably the most playful song on the record, but having this really kind of vulgar lyric set. I wouldn't consider this a COVID record, because we had been working on this since we had just finished recording our second record, Nella Vita. So we had plenty of time, plenty of time before then to start, you know, working through ideas and like demoing stuff out. And then with the time locked down together, after some time had passed and we had properly quarantined and everything, we had gotten back together and fleshed a lot of it out in the room. You know, like we had the benefit of both doing it in the box in the computer over a long period of time, and then playing it all together over a long period of time, and then having plenty of time to do it with our producer. So all that being said, Over Now is a song that I really love. We all really love, and I feel like it's one of those ones that it kind of captures like that soulfulness in the verses that a lot of the record has. Like it has this like R&B type of vibe, and then the chorus is this big rock anthem chorus. Then the outro is like this piano ballady type thing. Like I feel like that song, I would say, if I could explain Umbra and like all of the elements to it, I feel like that song Over Now specifically kind of captures all the different little flavors of Umbra in one song, just because it has so many little different kinds of feel to it, whether it's like that soulfulness or that big rock chorus or whatever. So definitely one that we're proud of. And that one came along early. That one had been hanging around since like pretty much day one demoing this record out. Yeah, Dreamcatcher is one that might be definitely in my top 3 on the record, and that's a super personal song to me. And I think at this point in the record, you've kind of taken a turn where you go Bad Love, you know, being kind of the song about having fun in this relationship that isn't necessarily good for you. Then Motown continuing on this like euphoric kind of honeymoon phase relationship type thing, into Over Now, where it's there's sort of like a loose 3-part thing in a way, just the way the track listing worked out, where Over Now is kind of the ending of that relationship that wasn't so good for you, and it was introduced with Bad Love. And then after Over Now, you take a turn into like I think that's where the vinyl split up. So this would be the B-side of the record in terms of like the way the vinyl split up. And this is where you start to see like some of the darker shit, like instrumentally, and the themes of like the darker feeling kind of come out. And Dreamcatcher is kind of the first one that starts that off. And that's a super honest, like personal song for me. That's just about being in the position, having like a pattern, whether it's something like behavioral or emotional or whatever, where you kind of can't stop yourself, and you're doing something that you know isn't good for you, and you're in a super negative headspace and can't get out of it. And the person, like the perspective of who it's written from, the song is like, clearly this person doesn't have any intention of getting better, because they keep kind of falling into the same mistakes and wanting somebody to come pull them out of it. And it's like got this yearning for this Katie, which is like the obviously the theme of the song, and definitely one of my favorites. I feel really good about that song. And this is I guess Without You is the first one where you hear the choir right off rip, and then you hear the choir make an appearance on this song as well. So definitely one that I love for sure. Yeah, so this song is about it's a super close song to me emotionally. It's my father was super ill during all of towards the beginning of our part 1 headlining tour in the fall winter of 2019 into our B Market headliner early 2020. He was in a coma for like over a month, and he was super ill. He had been read his last rites. Like, it was this super awful thing where he had this super complicated medical thing where all signs, we were preparing for the worst. And thank God somehow the people at Penn Medicine in Philadelphia were able to save him. And it's been a long process recovering. He's had to relearn to walk and talk and eat. And it's been this very extensive rehabbing process. But without getting into too much detail, that song, I wrote it during the time kind of about that. And a lot of it, honestly, I feel like was before we knew he was going to make a recovery at all. When, I was kind of in the thick of it. So that song is just about it's about my dad being sick. Yeah, I mean, like I kind of alluded to in the beginning, man, it's like we're an alternative band, and we write, alternative rock, we write pop, we write ballads, and I think this is obviously, I feel like a more pop leaning song in terms of production and a lot of the melody and everything. And I think we wanted to, we've done, like, before this record, we came out with a single called Diamond, which isn't on Umbra, but it was a super alt pop leaning song. And definitely was a little bit different for us in terms of what we had done before, but it was something we wanted to do because there is a pop element to our band, and that is music that we love to write. And I think we put out Diamond, and a lot of people really liked it, and we really liked it. And obviously it scared some people, which honestly was the intention, because doing that allows songs like Carolina Skies to live with kind of impunity on the next record. So there was definitely thought behind why we put out like a super pop leading single like that. Hey, Andrew. What's up, man? Doing a track by track with Roxanne. We're talking about Carolina Skies. You like that song, right? Andrew loves Carolina Skies. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, but that song is definitely more like probably the most pop leaning one on the record in terms of production and just the way it's written. And it's definitely different, but we love it. It's got this, like, I don't know. It feels like it could be like on a soundtrack or something, but it definitely, we got weird with it, and we love it, man. So back to my point of this back half of the record being more like, more kind of darker, like more straightforward in terms of like how there's like this kind of darkness to it. King of Everything is a kind of an extension from the song Tommy's Song off our last record, Nella Vida, which is about my cousin who took his own life when he was 20. And King of Everything is sort of the other side of it, right? It's from an like the Umbra theme perspective, it's kind of the other side of how I feel about it. Like so much of Nella Vida and Adornment, I'm writing stories, and Umbra, I'm storytelling as well, but there's more of a conscious effort of writing like how I feel about things on Umbra, hence that kind of internalized confliction and darkness that I was kind of I've been mentioning throughout this discussion. And King of Everything is definitely one of those songs that while Tommy's Song, I'm telling the story and kind of dedicating it to him. King of Everything is kind of this selfish side of, well, I'm still here on Earth dealing with it. Like it's kind of comes from this sort of like angry, kind of frustrated sentiment of like, you know, you did this, and now, you know, like we all have to live with it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a very different kind of twisted way of thinking, but it's just part of grieving. It's like that anger, it's normal. And I think that's a song of like, it took a lot of honesty within like myself to write about it, and kind of be okay with like how I felt about things. It's a very like open and honest song. So that's kind of an extension off of Tommy's Song from Nella Vida. It's kind of the other side, like how I feel, you know, a year later, and how I'm still like dealing with it, and how the way the lyrics are written is, you know, King of Everything. Like now you can do, you know, you're free to do what you want. You know, things are better for you now, but everybody else is dealing with it every day, carrying it. So that's what that song's about. And to your point, it is very much, it's very clear up front. You can tell it's, you know, there's a different tone to it than a lot of the previous aspects of the record, especially the A side of it. That was the last song that we wrote for Umbra. So that was the last one that made it onto the record. And there's something about it, just had like an attitude, it had a feel to it. Like it was pop, but it was rock at the same time. And we felt really good about it at the studio. We just doubled down and we're like, yeah, like, you know, we wrote that one with our producer, Courtney, who's amazing, and we absolutely love. And he was a huge part of finding that sound I keep referring to, where we kind of hit this point on this record where it was like, you know, there's a like Adornment and Nella Vida, we were kind of walking through the woods, and then we felt like Umbra was kind of the record where we found the trailhead in a way. Like we kind of arrived on like the beginning of, okay, this is what we're supposed to sound like. And some bands it happens right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit. And I feel like we're one of those bands where it took a little just to be able to have that acumen, to be able to pull in the influences and the full form of way that you would write songs with all of your influences, the way you properly would want to if you had the resources. So that's kind of what is so unique and important about this record. And writing it with Courtney was amazing. Babylon was such a cool song to write, and we kind of knew like right from jump, like I know he wanted it as a single, and a lot of our team did as well. And definitely something that I like a lot. It has a cool attitude and feel to it. And it's one of those ones where like I didn't necessarily pick it as a single, but everybody else really on our team was like that's a must. It has to be. And I was like, all right, I trust the team. I trust the process. So yeah. That song went through like the most like iterations of itself, meaning like it started as like this strictly piano ballad, and then it became this like sort of pop, you know, pop production ballad, and then back to piano ballad. And then at the end, our friend Skylar, who we flew out to do piano on the record, he's written piano parts on other parts of our songs. He's an incredible composer. He worked on Nella Vida, he worked on Umbra extensively. He wrote the piano to Tommy's Song, the song I referenced earlier, on Nella Vida. But we were like pretty set on having it as a piano ballad, and then like I think the day before he flew out to actually track it, with a like a baby grand piano in a studio we had rented. He's sitting over, he was like, hey, I messed with this like synth feel, like check it out. And he sent it to us, and I think he went to bed and he got on the plane or whatever. And our producer Courtney opened it up and played it, and we listened to it, and we like listened to the whole thing, and we sat in silence, and we were like, Courtney's like, we listened to it again, and then he just turns it off at the end. He like rolls around his chair, he's like, I love it, fucking love it. Like, and there was something about it where it was like it was so different, like just being a strict like synth ballad, and it felt like it fit better on the record than having like the you know, I love the elegance to piano, to like a grand piano. Like I love the way it feels and sounds, but something about that kind of out of the box like synth ballad feel, it just felt like it made more sense, and it ended the record on like a more like a different kind of feel, more towards what we wanted. And it was interesting. It was definitely like a last minute decision, but it was definitely one I'm happy we went with. It felt made the song feel much different, and you know, it stood out in a different cool way, being this like synth driven ballad. So that's Light.